Mom texted, "We're too exhausted from your sister's trip to come to your graduation." I replied, "No worries. Rest up." What they didn't realize was that I was the valedictorian at Harvard. When my speech aired on TV, our phones wouldn't stop blowing up. Can you imagine witnessing the ultimate betrayal, not from a stranger, but from the person you loved most, the mother of your own child? What I saw on that tiny phone screen shattered my entire world, twisting everything I believed about love and trust into a gut-wrenching nightmare. It wasn't just my life that changed forever, but my son's too. Transition to a more conversational, yet still serious tone. "You see, my name's Darius Thurman, and for years, my heart lived back home in our quiet town, just outside Augusta, Georgia. I was a long-haul truck driver, constantly on the road, hauling freight coast to coast, all to build the best possible life for my amazing wife, Nia, and our son, Ethan. I honestly thought I knew us. But sometimes, the people closest to us hold dark secrets, things we never, ever expect until they rip through your reality. It all started when I noticed a shift in Ethan. He'd always been my bright, cheerful kid, the one who'd bolt out to hug me the second my truck pulled up, buzzing with stories about school. Pure energy, pure joy. Or at least, that's how he used to be. After one particularly long trip, almost 3 weeks, I just knew something was different. When I got home, Ethan barely came out of his room to greet me. And when I went in, his hug felt distant. There was a look in his eyes I'd never seen before, a sort of shadow. "Everything okay, son?" I asked, ruffling his hair like I always did. "Yeah, Dad," he mumbled, not meeting my gaze. Nia appeared in the doorway, shrugging it off. "He's been like that for a few days, a little quiet. Must just be a phase. He's growing up, you know." But something didn't sit right. That night at dinner, I watched him. He ate slowly, head bowed, occasionally glancing at his mother as if he was afraid of doing something wrong. And the darkest part? Those heavy, dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept soundly in a very, very long time. "How's school going, buddy?" I tried to spark a conversation. "Fine," he mumbled. "And your friends? Is your pal Kevin still coming over?" That's when I saw Nia stare intently at Ethan. He swallowed hard before answering, just a tiny nod. Later, tucking him in, when we were finally alone, I asked again, "Is everything really okay?" He grabbed my hand and whispered something that sent an ice-cold shiver down my spine. "Dad, don't tell Mom I talked to you." Pause, voice dropped slightly. "Talked about what, son?" My heart was absolutely pounding. But before he could even answer, Nia was there, in the doorway. "Time for bed, Ethan. School's early tomorrow." The way he flinched, the sheer terror in his eyes when he saw her, it wasn't normal. I kissed his forehead and left, my head spinning. Something was profoundly wrong. I couldn't sleep a wink that night. I decided right then and there, I needed to pay closer attention before heading back out on the highway. In the days that followed, I became a silent observer. This wasn't the chatty kid I knew. His teacher even mentioned he was quieter, less involved. At home, he spent most of his time isolated in his room. Every time I asked if he was all right, he'd just say yes, but his eyes screamed a different story. One afternoon, with Nia out, I sat with him. At first, he resisted, pulling away. But I kept at it, gently. "Buddy, you can tell me anything. You know Dad will always protect you." He was silent, just wringing his little hands. Then, in a whisper, he said, "I don't like it when you travel, Dad." "Why, son? Doesn't Mom take good care of you?" "No," he said, not elaborating, just lowering his head. I pushed a little more. "Ethan, did something happen when Dad was away?" That's when he started to cry, soft, trembling sobs that broke my heart. I pulled him close, feeling his small body shake. Between sobs, he whispered, "Dad, please don't tell Mom." Voice tightens with emotion. That broke me. What kind of fear was this? Why was he so guarded around his own mother? Ethan, did Mom do something to you? Can you tell me, son? Just then, we heard the key in the front door. He immediately pulled away, wiped his tears, and his demeanor shifted completely, like he'd snapped a mask into place. I'm home, Nia announced, walking in. She smiled, seeing us, but it felt unsettling. What are you two up to? Just talking, I tried to sound natural. Right, son? Ethan nodded without a word, then asked to go to the bathroom. His eyes were still red when he came back, but he tried to hide it. That night, I confronted Nia. Don't you think he's different? Quieter, more withdrawn? She just shrugged, putting lotion on her face. It's a phase, Darius. Kids go through this. They're joyful one day, introverted the next. It's normal. But those dark circles, Nia. It looks like he hasn't been sleeping well. He's been having some nightmares, she replied, not looking at me. Kids do that. And why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to worry you while you were on the road. You have enough on your mind. Her explanation sounded reasonable, but deep inside, something remained horribly unsettled. I woke up several times that night. It was during one of those times I realized Nia wasn't in bed. I got up, stepped out. The house was silent, and then I saw it. The door to Ethan's room was slightly ajar. Nia was inside. I froze in the hallway, trying not to make a sound, trying to understand. After about 30 minutes, she left quietly, closing the door. What were you doing in his room at this hour? I asked, startling her. Darius, you scared me. She clutched her chest. I went to check if he was sleeping okay, because of the nightmares. 30 minutes to check if he's sleeping okay? He woke up. He was agitated. I stayed there calming him down. Why? What kind of question is that? Sorry, I said, trying to hide my suspicion. I was just worried. We went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. The next morning, after Nia took Ethan to school, I went straight to his room. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I needed a clue. That's when I saw an old teddy bear I'd given him years ago, lying beneath the bed. The bear he loved so much was torn, stuffing coming out. My son always took excellent care of his toys. When I picked it up, I saw dark stains on the fabric that looked like dried tears. That disturbed me even more. The next night, I stayed awake on purpose. Again, around 11 o'clock, Nia quietly slipped out of bed and went to Ethan's room. This time, I waited a few minutes and crept up to the door, listening. That's when I heard it, the muffled sound of crying. My son was sobbing quietly, terrified of making noise. Voice tight, almost a whisper, discipline, I heard Nia say in a low, firm tone. It's for your own good. What was happening behind that door? What kind of discipline made my son cry in the middle of the night? In that moment, a cold, hard decision solidified in my mind, one that would change our lives forever. The next morning, I used a company business excuse and left the house early. My head buzzed with doubts. Was I overreacting? Was it just a phase, as Nia claimed? But that muffled crying, that profound fear in my son's eyes. I couldn't shake it. I drove downtown, walked into an electronics shop. I needed a small, discreet camera, easy to install, accessible from my phone. Is this for home security, sir? The clerk asked. Yes, I replied, a knot in my throat. For my son's security. I left with a micro camera. The clerk explained the setup. I never thought I'd reach the point of installing a hidden camera in my own house to monitor my own wife. But my son's well-being was more important than anything. When I got back, Nia was in the kitchen, Ethan at school. perfect timing. Did you get what you needed? She asked. Yeah. Got everything sorted, I lied, slipping the bag with the camera into my jacket pocket. Going to take a shower. I went to Ethan's room, found the perfect spot on the bookshelf, hidden among toys. Small enough to go unnoticed, but angled perfectly. With trembling hands, I set it up, tested it on my phone. It worked. A mixture of relief and guilt washed over me. Relief that I might finally know. Guilt for invading my own home. But something told me I was doing the right thing. That night at dinner, I tried to act normal, but my stomach churned. Ethan remained quiet, glancing at his mother. Nia seemed perfectly normal. I have to head back out on the road the day after tomorrow, I mentioned, watching them. Long trip down to Texas. I saw Ethan's shoulders slump. A nearly imperceptible flicker in Nia's eyes. How long this time? She asked with a calmness that now seemed suspicious. At least 2 weeks, maybe more. Ethan dropped his head further. Nia smiled faintly. We'll miss you, won't we, Ethan? He just nodded. After dinner, putting him to bed, he tightly grabbed my hand. Dad, do you really have to travel? The desperation in his voice just broke my heart. Yes, son. I need to work, but it'll go by fast, and I'll be back soon, okay? He didn't answer, just hugged me tightly like he never wanted to let go. In that moment, I was certain I'd done the right thing with that camera. The next day, I spent every possible moment with Ethan. Ice cream, playing catch, cartoons. I wanted him to know I was there, that he could trust me. That night, before he fell asleep, I tried one last time. Ethan, you know you can tell me anything, right? Even if someone tells you not to. He quickly looked toward the door, checking if we were alone. I know, Dad, he whispered. Is there something happening that you want to tell me? Something that makes you sad or scared? His eyes welled up, but he held back tears. I can't, Dad. Why not, son? Why? He started, but his voice failed. Just then, footsteps in the hall. It was Nia. Bedtime for you, too. You need your rest for your trip tomorrow, Darius. I gave Ethan one last hug, whispering, I love you, son. I will always protect you. When I left the room, Nia followed me. We lay down. After a while, I pretended to be asleep. About an hour later, she quietly got up and left the room. My heart hammered against my ribs. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera app. On the screen, I saw Nia enter Ethan's room. She gently closed the door. Ethan was lying there, awake, as if expecting her. I saw him shrink under the covers, pulling the blanket to his chin. Voice becomes strained, almost a whisper, conveying deep shock and horror. Mom, please, he whispered. I was good today. You know that doesn't matter, right? Nia replied, in a voice I'd never heard from her before. It was cold, distant. This is for your education. That's when I saw something that froze my blood. Nia pulled a roll of masking tape from her robe pocket. My entire body went rigid. On that small phone screen, I watched my wife, my son's mother, move towards the bed with the tape. Ethan shrank further, his little eyes wide with pure, unadulterated fear. Please, Mom, he pleaded softly. I promise I'll be better. Shh, she hushed, putting a finger to her lips. The neighbors can't hear, remember? And neither can Dad. With a quick, brutal motion, she tore off a piece of tape, and without any hesitation, she stuck it over my son's mouth. My Ethan, my 8-year-old boy, silenced in such a cruel way. My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped the phone. That's better, Nia said in a low tone. Now we won't bother anyone with crying, right? Then she pulled a hard, sole slipper from her other robe pocket. Ethan, mouth covered, tried to plead with his eyes. Silent tears began to roll down his little face. "This is for your own good," she continued with that icy voice I wouldn't have recognized as belonging to the woman I married. "One day you'll thank me for teaching you discipline." What happened next was one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness. Nia started hitting my son with the slipper. These weren't light taps. These weren't disciplinary pats. They were hard, repeated blows, all while she whispered for him to learn his lesson. Ethan couldn't scream because of the tape, but his body convulsed with every hit. I watched his small shoulders shaking with silent sobs, tears soaking his pillow. And worst of all, I saw a mixture of pain and resignation in his eyes, as if this was a known routine. I wanted to rush out, to burst into his room, to make it stop immediately. But a cold, rational part of me, a part one didn't know existed, knew I needed concrete proof. I needed to document that cruelty, to ensure Ethan would never go through this again. So, with a shattered heart, I continued to record. "This is for talking too much with your father today," I heard Nia say between blows. "You know you can't tell him our business." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she stopped. Ethan was huddled in the bed, his little body trembling with mute sobs. "Remember our deal?" Nia said, leaning over him. "If you tell your father anything, I'll know, and it will be much worse." Then she ripped the tape off his mouth, making him wince. "Now dry your face and go to sleep. And I don't want to hear a sound. Understand?" Ethan nodded, terrified. Nia smoothed the blanket over him as if nothing had happened, as if that gesture could erase the violence from moments before. "Good night, son," she said, and left the room, gently closing the door. In the darkness of my room, phone still in hand, those images were seared into my memory. I cried silently, tears streaming down my face. How had I not seen it? How could I have left my son vulnerable for so long? The trips, the long absences. How long had this been going on? Minutes later, Nia returned to our bed. I feigned sleep, but every fiber of my being wanted to confront her, to scream, to ask how she was capable of doing that to our child. But I knew I needed to be strategic. Ethan was in danger, and I needed to act cautiously, to protect him properly. I spent the whole night awake, checking the camera periodically. I watched as Ethan, after his mother left, cried silently, clutching that broken teddy bear. I watched as he finally fell asleep, utterly exhausted. And I promised myself right then and there, I would do everything to get my son out of that situation. The next morning, I got up before Nia and made breakfast for Ethan. When he appeared with those deep, dark circles, that defeated expression, my heart sank. I tried to act normally, but all I could think about were the images from the night before. "Did you sleep well, son?" I asked, trying not to show what I felt. "Yes, Dad," he replied automatically, not looking me in the eye. "Ethan," I called, crouching to his level. "Look at me." He slowly raised his eyes, and I could see all the fear and pain contained there. "I love you very much," I said, holding his small hands. "And I'm going to do everything to protect you. Do you believe me?" For a brief moment, I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes, quickly replaced by fear when we heard Nia approaching. "Good morning," she said, entering the kitchen as if nothing had happened. "Already having breakfast? That's great." I watched her pour coffee, spread butter, acting like the loving mother I always thought she was. The same person who, hours earlier, had tortured our son in the silence of the night. "What time are you leaving today?" she asked casually. "After lunch," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want to take advantage of the daylight on the highway." "Very good," she smiled. "Don't worry about a thing. We'll be fine, won't we, Ethan?" My son just nodded. After breakfast, while Nia took Ethan to school, I rushed to copy the video. I needed that evidence safe. I transferred the files to a flash drive, uploaded them to cloud storage. I couldn't risk losing that terrible but crucial evidence. When I got back on the road that afternoon, it was far from a normal work trip. Every mile that took me away from home was agony, knowing my son would be alone with his abuser. But now, I had a plan. The camera would remain vigilant, recording everything so I could act with the full force of the law. That night, I parked the truck at a rest stop. With a heavy heart, I accessed the camera app. Just as I suspected, the scene from the night before was repeating itself. Nia entered the room, closed the door, and the ritual of abuse began again. "Cry quietly," I heard her say as she applied the tape to my son's mouth. "Your father can never know this." That's when I made a decision that changed everything. I couldn't wait until I returned from the trip. My son would not spend another night in that house. With trembling hands and tears in my eyes, I called my brother-in-law, Nia's brother, Kevin Ellington. Kevin was always a stand-up guy, always loved Ethan dearly. And even though he was her brother, I trusted him. "Darius, everything okay?" "You don't usually call this late," he answered, sounding concerned. "Kevin, I need your help," I said, trying to control my voice. "It's an emergency. It's about Ethan." "What happened? Is he sick?" "No, it's worse. I need you to go to my house right now and get Ethan out of there. Invent any excuse. Say you need to take him to your place for some reason. Anything. Just get my son away from Nia. Please. Darius, you're scaring me." "What is going on?" "Kevin, I don't have time to explain everything right now. I'm on the highway, almost 8 hours from home. Can I trust you?" There was a moment of silence. Then, in a serious voice, he replied, "Yes, you can trust me. I'll go get Ethan right now." "Thank you," I sighed, feeling a slight, fragile sense of relief. "When you have him safe, call me. And please, don't tell Nia anything." I hung up and stared at my phone, praying Kevin could get my son out. Meanwhile, I got back on the road, driving straight home. I didn't care about the delivery, the job, nothing. I just wanted to protect my son. An hour and a half later, my phone rang. It was Kevin. "Darius, I have Ethan here at my house. I told Nia I needed his help assembling a surprise gift for Chloe. She was a little suspicious, but she let him come. We're home with Chloe." I closed my eyes for a moment, silently giving thanks. "How is he?" "Quiet. Kind of scared. He's asked for you several times." "Can I talk to him?" "Sure. Hold on a minute." I heard some shuffling, then my son's voice. "Dad?" "Hey buddy," I said, emotion swelling in my throat. "Are you okay there with Uncle Kevin?" "I'm okay," he replied softly. "Dad, are you coming to get me?" "I am, son. I'm driving home right now. I'll get there as fast as I can." "It's okay. In the meantime, you stay there with your uncle. He's going to take care of you." Okay, he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. "Dad, thank you." That simple, "thank you," broke my heart. My son was thanking me for getting him out of an abusive situation, as if being treated with dignity was a favor. "I love you so much, Ethan. We'll be together soon." After speaking with Ethan, Kevin got back on the phone. "Darius, are you going to tell me what's going on?" Ethan is terrified of going home. "What did Nia do?" "Kevin, I know this is hard to believe, but your sister has been physically abusing Ethan. I have video proof." There was a long silence. This can't be true. Nia wouldn't do that." I didn't want to believe it either, I replied, my voice breaking, but I saw it with my own eyes. I installed a camera in his room because I noticed something was wrong. She waits for me to fall asleep or when I'm traveling and goes into his room in the middle of the night, tapes his mouth shut so he won't make noise, and hits him. They're not disciplinary spanks, Kevin. It's pure violence. Oh my God, he whispered, clearly shaken. I have the videos. I'll show you when I get there. For now, I just need to know my son is safe. He's safe here with me and Chloe. You can rest easy. Nia has already called twice asking when I'm bringing him back. What did you tell her? That I needed his help assembling a surprise piece of furniture for Chloe and that we were going to stop by the burger spot afterward. I said I'd bring him back later. I don't know if she believed me, but it's the best I could come up with. Thank you, Kevin. Seriously. I should arrive home in the morning. I'll come straight to your house. I won't even stop by my place first. We'll be waiting. And Darius, I don't even know what to say. I never imagined my sister was capable of something like that. Me neither, I replied, a knot in my throat. Me neither. I continued driving all night without stopping. Every moment, I thought about my son, about the scars those months, or even years, of abuse would leave on him. How could a mother do that? How had I not noticed sooner? I remembered the small signs I had ignored, the dark circles, the withdrawn behavior, the fear in his eyes, Nia's flimsy excuses about discipline. All the times Ethan tried to tell me something but stopped when Nia walked in. All the times he begged me not to travel. Around 6 o'clock in the morning, I stopped at a gas station to refuel and wash my face. I was physically and emotionally exhausted. While waiting for the attendant, I checked the camera. Ethan's room was empty, but then I heard Nia's voice. I don't know, Mom, she was saying, pacing in the room. Kevin picked up Ethan yesterday and still hasn't brought him back. He won't answer my calls. I'm worried. And Darius called, saying he's coming home early. There was a pause as she listened. I don't know if he suspects anything. He's been acting strange these last few days, watching things closely, asking a lot of questions about Ethan. Another pause. Of course, I didn't tell him anything. Ethan knows not to talk. He's too scared to tell anyone. Voice cold with anger, I felt my blood boil. She was talking about torturing our son as if it were normal, a secret not to be shared with me. I have to hang up now, Mom. I'm going to call Kevin again. As soon as she left, I closed the app and got back in the truck. I needed to get home. When I finally arrived in town, it was past 9 a.m. I went straight to Kevin's house. He answered the door with a serious expression. He's still asleep, Kevin said quietly. He only managed to drift off around 5 o'clock this morning. He seemed afraid to close his eyes. Can I see him? Kevin led me to the guest room where Ethan was sleeping, curled up, a peaceful expression I hadn't seen in a long time. I sat on the edge of the bed, gently running my hand through his hair. He stirred but didn't wake. Darius, Kevin called from the hall. We need to talk now. I left the room, leaving the door ajar. In the living room, Kevin and Chloe were waiting, their expressions worried. I took his shirt off to give him a bath last night, Chloe said, her eyes teary. He has marks on his back, Darius. Old marks, new marks, like someone hits him regularly. I know, I finished, tears returning. I know. I saw it. You said you have videos? Kevin reminded me. I took out my phone and showed them the recordings from the last 2 nights. Chloe had to leave the room, openly crying. Kevin watched in silence, his face pale, hands trembling. Oh my God, Darius, he said when the videos finished. This is monstrous. I can't believe my own sister. Me neither, I replied, putting away the phone. But we need to act fast. Nia is already suspicious. She's called you several times. I need to take Ethan somewhere safe and go to the police. Just then, a small voice came from the hallway. Dad? Ethan was standing there, rubbing his sleepy eyes. When he saw me, he ran, throwing himself into my arms, sobbing. I hugged him tightly, promising myself I would never let anyone hurt my son again. It's all right now, son, I whispered. Dad's here. No one will hurt you anymore. He clung to me as if his life depended on it. And in a way, it really did. I sat on the sofa with Ethan in my lap, his face buried in my chest, small hands clutching my shirt. Kevin and Chloe gave us space, going into the kitchen. I just held him, feeling his trembling body gradually calm. Buddy, I called softly when he was more relaxed. I need to talk to you about something really important. He lifted his face, eyes red. So much fear, so much pain for such a small child. You don't have to be scared anymore, I continued, holding his little hands. I know what was happening when I wasn't home. I know what Mom was doing to you at night. His body instantly tensed. Panic grew in his eyes. Dad, she'll be mad if she knows I said something. You didn't say anything, son. I found out on my own, I explained, trying to calm him. I installed a camera in your room before I traveled. I saw everything that happened. Ethan looked at me, confused. You saw? I saw, son. I saw everything she was doing to you. The tape on your mouth, the hitting. He lowered his head as if ashamed. I'm sorry, Dad. Those 2 words broke me. My son apologizing for being a victim of abuse. I held his face in my hands, making him look at me. Ethan, listen closely to what Dad is going to say. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. What Mom did to you is wrong. Very, very wrong. No adult, not even a parent, is allowed to hurt a child like that. Do you understand? He nodded slowly, but I saw the doubt still in his eyes. Years of manipulation and fear wouldn't be erased with a few words. How long has this been going on, son? He bit his lip. Since you started taking the longer trips. She said it was to teach me to be a good boy while you were away. She said if I told anyone, nobody would believe me, that she would say I was lying for attention. I closed my eyes, a physical pain in my chest. This had been going on for so long, practically an entire year, and I hadn't realized. All those trips, all those nights, I left my son alone with his abuser. And when I was home, did she do this, too? He shook his head. Not as much. Only when you were asleep. She would wait until you were deeply asleep and come into my room, but it was quicker because she was afraid you'd wake up. I remembered all the times I woke up and found her returning to bed, claiming she'd gone to the bathroom. All the mornings I found Ethan looking defeated. How could I have been so blind? When she hit you, why did she say she was doing it? Ethan shrugged. Sometimes it was because I talked to you too much, or because I left my school bag in the wrong place, or because I didn't eat all my dinner. He paused, swallowing, but most of the time she said she didn't need a reason, that it was so I could learn to be strong. A tear escaped my eye. I quickly wiped it away. I needed to be strong for him. Ethan, look at me, I asked, waiting for his eyes to meet mine. As of today, this is over. You will never go through this again. Never. I promise you. And Mom, she's going to be really mad when she knows. Don't you worry about her. You won't be alone with her ever again. Just then, Kevin returned with hot cocoa and cookies. Chloe came behind him. Look, Ethan, Kevin said, forcing a smile. Chloe made hot cocoa for you. Ethan looked at the tray, then at me, asking for permission. Go ahead, son. You must be hungry. He climbed off my lap and went to the table. While he ate, Kevin gestured me to the backyard. So, Darius, what are you going to do now? I'm going to the precinct, I said, determined. I'm going to show the videos, file a report, and ask for a restraining order for Ethan. I'm doing everything necessary to keep my son safe. You know this is going to destroy your family, right? That Nia could go to jail. I looked at him seriously. Kevin. I know she's your sister, but what she did, what she's been doing for months, that already destroyed our family. A mother who tortures her own child doesn't deserve that title. And yes, if the justice system decides she should go to jail, so be it. He nodded slowly. You're right. It's just hard to accept that your own sister is capable of something like that. But Ethan comes first. He's just a kid. Exactly, I agreed. And I failed him once. I won't fail him again. What can I do to help? You're already helping, Kevin, by giving us shelter. By protecting my son when I couldn't. I just need you and Chloe to stay with Ethan while I go to the precinct. I don't want him to go through this right now. Of course. No problem. He can stay here as long as necessary. We went back inside. Ethan was cheerful, talking quietly with Chloe. It was the first time in a long time I'd seen him like this, almost relaxed. Buddy, I called, kneeling beside him. Dad needs to go out for a few hours to take care of some important things. You'll stay here with Uncle Kevin and Aunt Chloe. Okay? Panic immediately returned to his eyes. You'll come back, right, Dad? Promise? Of course, I'm coming back, son. I promise. I'm just going to sort some things out to make sure you're safe. Mom is going to come and get me, isn't she? No, I replied firmly. She's not coming here. Are you sure? He nodded, but still looked insecure. Chloe, sensing his fear, suggested, Ethan, how about we watch that superhero movie you love so much while your dad takes care of things? The suggestion cheered him up a little. I gave him one last hug before leaving, promising him again that I'd be back soon. On the way to the precinct, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was Nia. I ignored the first few, but on the fifth try, I decided to answer. I needed to buy time. Hello, I answered dryly. Darius, she exclaimed, sounding relieved. Thank God. I've been trying to call you for hours. Kevin took Ethan last night and still hasn't brought him back. He won't answer my calls. I'm worried. The hypocrisy infuriated me, her worried about the son she systematically abused. He's fine, I replied, controlling the rage. He's still with Kevin. Why didn't you tell me you were coming back early? And why haven't you come home? Where are you? I'm taking care of some business, I evaded. I'll be home later. Darius, what is going on? You're acting strange. We'll talk when I get there, I replied and hung up before she could ask more questions. At the sheriff's office, a detective listened to my account with seriousness. When I showed the videos, she shook her head, visibly disturbed. Mr. Thurman, this is a serious case of domestic violence against a minor. We are going to take all necessary measures. First, a detailed report and an emergency protective order to keep your wife away from the child. And what about the custody of my son? You can immediately file for temporary custody. With this evidence, it is very likely the judge will grant the petition. I spent the next few hours giving a statement, filling out forms, sending the videos. The detective called Child and Family Services. Everything felt like slow motion and fast forward all at once. When I finally left the precinct, it was late afternoon. I had a police report and a protocol for the protective order. The detective assured me an officer would notify Nia that very day, prohibiting her from approaching Ethan or contacting him. As I drove back to Kevin's house, an unknown number called. It was the court officer. He had just served Nia. She didn't react well, he commented. She became agitated, saying it was all lies, that you were making things up to take her son away. That was to be expected, I replied, tired. Do you have a safe place for the minor? Because she won't be able to remain in the same residence as him. Yes, we're at my brother-in-law's for now. I plan to rent a place of my own soon. Excellent. Any problems? Contact the precinct immediately. When I arrived at Kevin's, I found Ethan watching TV with Chloe. He ran to hug me. You came back, he exclaimed, relieved. I promised you, didn't I? I smiled, picking him up. And Dad always keeps his promises. Kevin called me into the kitchen. Nia came here, he said quietly. My blood ran cold. What? When? About an hour ago. He recounted how furious she was, how she tried to come in to see Ethan, but he didn't let her. He reminded her the protective order was against her. She eventually left, but he was sure she'd be back. We're going to have to leave here, I concluded, running a hand through my hair. I don't want to involve you guys more than I already have. Where will you go? I'll rent a hotel room for now until I find an apartment. Don't be foolish, Darius. Kevin put a hand on my shoulder. You can stay here for as long as you need. My house is big. We have the guest room. Ethan is already comfortable here. I don't want to cause trouble for you and Chloe. Nia is your sister. This is complicated. She is my sister, yes. But what she did is unforgivable. Ethan is just a child. He didn't deserve to go through this. You're staying here until you get settled again. End of story. I felt a wave of gratitude for this man who, despite being the brother of the person who caused so much harm, chose to side with what was right. That night, tucking Ethan into the guest room, he asked me to stay until he fell asleep. I lay down beside him. Dad, he called quietly. Mom won't hurt me anymore, right? No, son. Never again. I promise, I said, holding his little hand. Dad is going to protect you always. She got really mad because you found out. I think so. But that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you're safe now. He was silent. Then he whispered, You know, Dad, I prayed every night for you to find out. I was so scared to tell you. Tears returned to my eyes. I'm so sorry I didn't find out sooner, son. I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault, Dad, he said with a wisdom beyond his years. Mom said it was our secret, that everyone would think I was lying, that even you would think I was making things up. I would never think that, Ethan. Never. You can always tell me everything. I will always believe you. He smiled faintly, the first genuine smile I'd seen on his face in a long time. Soon after, he fell asleep holding my hand. I stayed there, watching my son sleep in peace, perhaps for the first time in many weeks, and I swore I would do everything to rebuild our lives and give him back the childhood he deserved. The next day, my lawyer called. He had news. Mr. Thurman, the judge has granted your petition for temporary custody. You have exclusive custody of Ethan until the case is adjudicated. Your wife will be entitled to supervised visitation if you agree, but only in a neutral location and with an appointed professional from the court. I felt an enormous weight lift. It was only the beginning of a long legal battle. I knew that, but it was a start. When I hung up, I saw Ethan watching me from the kitchen doorway, eyes full of hope and fear. Dad, are we going to be okay? I opened my arms and he ran to me. I hugged him with all the strength of my love. Yes, son. I promise you we are going to be okay. The weeks that followed were weeks of adjustment and healing. We rented a small, comfortable apartment close to Kevin and Chloe's house, which continued to be our safe haven. I made difficult decisions about my job. Long-haul trucking was incompatible with being a single father. I spoke with my boss and arranged to make only regional deliveries, allowing me to be home every night. Ethan began therapy 3 times a week with Dr. Ramirez, a psychologist specializing in childhood trauma. At first, he was reluctant, but slowly he began to open up, expressing his fears and pain. One afternoon, after a particularly intense session, Dr. Ramirez asked to speak with me alone. "Mr. Thurman, Ethan is making progress, but the trauma is deep," she explained. He lived for approximately a year under constant terror, always dreading the moment his mother would enter the room to hurt him. "Will he overcome this someday?" I asked, anxious. "Children are surprisingly resilient when they have adequate support," she smiled faintly. "The fact that you acted quickly when you discovered the abuse was crucial. Many children are victimized for years because the adults around them don't believe them or choose not to see." "I should have noticed it sooner," I said, feeling the weight of the guilt. "Abusers are very skilled at hiding their actions, Mr. Thurman. And from what Ethan told me, his mother constantly threatened him to ensure his silence. She chose moments when you weren't around or when she believed you wouldn't notice. This is typical. I've thought of all those trips. I'm going to change my job permanently. No more long-haul trips. That's an important decision. The constant presence of a protective adult is fundamental to Ethan's recovery. He needs to feel safe, to know he can trust you to be there." "I'll always be there," I promised. And regarding supervised visits, the judge granted Nia that right. "I don't know how Ethan will react to seeing his mother." Dr. Ramirez sighed. "That's a delicate matter. Legally, she has that right unless it's proven that the visits would be detrimental to Ethan's mental health. Based on what I've seen, I can prepare a report for the court recommending that the visits be temporarily suspended. At least until Ethan is more emotionally stable." "That would help a lot," I replied, relieved. "He still wakes up screaming some nights, calling out, afraid that she'll come to hurt him. Nightmares are common in trauma cases. They will decrease with time and therapy. Mr. Thurman, there's one more thing we need to discuss." Ethan mentioned that his mother used religion to justify the punishments. She said it was biblical discipline, that she was doing it for his own good. Stomach churning with disbelief, I felt my stomach churn. She was never particularly religious with me. I never imagined she would use that as an excuse for. I couldn't finish the thought. Unfortunately, this is more common than one might imagine. Some people twist religious concepts to justify violence against children. This also explains part of the moral confusion Ethan feels. He was led to believe he deserved the suffering, that it was for his benefit. I left that session with a heavy heart, but also with more clarity on how to help my son. On the way home, we stopped for ice cream, a small ritual we established after therapy. "How was the conversation with Dr. Ramirez today, son?" I asked as he licked his chocolate ice cream. "It was good," he replied more openly. "She taught me how to breathe in a special way when I start to feel scared." "And does it work?" He shrugged. "Sometimes, when it's not a really big scare." "And when it is a really big scare, what do you do?" "I think about you, Dad," he said simply. "I think that now you're going to protect me." Those simple words made my eyes well up. I put my arm around his shoulders, pulling him close. "Always, son. Always." That night, while Ethan slept, Kevin came over. He seemed tense. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nia is trying to build a case against you," he said directly. "She went to our mom's house today, and I was there. She said she's going to prove you're an absent father, that you always left Ethan's upbringing in her hands while you traveled, and that you're now using false accusations to take her son away." "False accusations?" I repeated, incredulous. "I have videos, Kevin. Videos of her torturing our son." I know. He tried to calm me. I'm just telling you what she's planning. She says she's going to find witnesses, neighbors, relatives, people from Ethan's school who will say she was always a good, dedicated, loving mother. And what those people say matters more than the concrete evidence of what she was doing when no one was looking. I argued, frustrated. Darius, you know how complicated the justice system can be, especially when it comes to custody disputes, Kevin sighed. She's leveraging the fact that you spend a lot of time away from home for work. I ran a tired hand over my face. That's why I already changed my work routine. I'm only doing local deliveries now. That's good. Kevin nodded. It will help show the judge you are committed to Ethan's well-being. But I shouldn't have to prove that. I argued. I'm not the one who was hitting my son every night, taping his mouth shut so no one would hear his screams. Kevin sighed deeply. I know it's outrageous, but she is the mother. Unfortunately, in many cases, the system tends to favor mothers, even when there's evidence of abuse. You have to prepare for a difficult battle. I'm prepared to face whatever is necessary for my son. In the days that followed, Nia filed a petition to revoke the protective order and temporary custody. As Kevin warned, she built her case on my supposed absence. Following my lawyer's advice, I meticulously documented our new routine. I took Ethan to school, picked him up, attended all therapy sessions, school meetings. We went on outings. I took photos, saved receipts, requested statements. At home, Ethan's nightmares became less frequent. Little by little, he was returning to the cheerful boy I remembered, though he still had moments of sudden fear or deep sadness. One night while helping him with homework, he asked a question that took me by surprise. Dad, Mom didn't love me, did she? I put down the pencil and turned to him. Why do you ask that, son? He shrugged, fighting back tears. Because she hurt me so badly. You only hurt people you don't love, right? How do you explain something so complex to an 8-year-old? How do you make him understand that the problem wasn't him? It never was. Ethan, what Mom did to you has nothing to do with whether you're a good or bad boy, or whether she loved you or not. There are adults who are sick in here, I pointed to my head, and in here, I pointed to my heart. They do very bad things because they don't know how to handle their own feelings and problems. So, Mom is sick? He asked, trying to understand. In a way, yes. It's not a sickness like the flu. It's a sickness that makes a person hurt others, especially those who can't defend themselves. And that is very, very wrong. He was silent for a moment. Will she ever get better? That was the hardest question. I don't know, son. Some people manage to realize they are sick and seek help. Others don't. But the most important thing is that you are safe now. And I'm going to do everything I can to keep you that way. And if the judge says I have to go back and live with her, he asked with evident fear. That's not going to happen, I assured him, pulling him into a hug. We have proof of what she did, and your well-being is what matters most to the judge. Plus, Dr. Ramirez is helping to explain to the court that you need time to feel safe again. That conversation resonated in my mind for days. My son, so small, trying to understand. 2 weeks later, we received the news. Nia's petition to revoke the protective order had been denied. Dr. Ramirez's report, along with the videos and Ethan's own testimony in a protected environment, were decisive. The judge not only maintained the protective order but also temporarily suspended Nia's right to supervised visits, determining she would need psychological evaluation and mandatory treatment before any contact with her son could be re-established. It was a significant victory, but I knew the battle wasn't over. Nia wouldn't give up easily. That night, as Ethan slept peacefully for the first time in many weeks, I sat on the balcony of our small apartment, reflecting. The terrible discovery, the desperate rescue, the nights of nightmares, the court battles. It had been the most difficult period of our lives, but also the start of our healing. I looked up at the stars, thinking how our future now seemed a little clearer, a little more hopeful. Ethan was starting to smile again, to play, to trust. I had found a new balance. And although the road was still long, for the first time in a long time, I truly believed we would be okay. My phone vibrated. It was Kevin sending a photo he'd taken that day during a barbecue at his house. Ethan was smiling, holding a marshmallow on a stick over the grill, his eyes shining with a genuine joy I hadn't seen in so long. Below the photo, Kevin's message, "That smile is worth every battle, isn't it?" I replied, my heart full. Every single one. Voice shifts to a more resolved, slightly wiser tone. Today, almost 2 years after that fateful night when I installed the camera in my son's room, our lives have taken a completely different path. We live in a small but comfortable house with a yard where Ethan can play and where we planted a small vegetable patch together. I have a stable job as a logistics manager for a local transport company. No more long trips. I'm always home every night. Ethan is 10 now. The nightmares are rare. He continues therapy, but it's once a week. Dr. Ramirez says his progress is remarkable. Some emotional scars will probably stay, but he's learned to deal with those wounds, to understand it wasn't his fault, and to recognize warning signs and ask for help. At school, he's an engaged student. He's made new friends, joined the soccer team. Seeing the joy on his face when he scores a goal, hearing his carefree laugh, those are the moments that show me our fight was worth it. As for Nia, the justice system took its course. After many hearings and evaluations, she was found guilty of child abuse and mistreatment. She was sentenced to community service and mandatory psychiatric treatment, in addition to the definitive loss of Ethan's custody. She still tries from time to time to regain the right to see her son, always claiming she is healed and remorseful. The judge wisely maintains that any contact must be pre-approved by Ethan and his therapeutic team. To this day, my son has shown no interest in seeing his mother again. When the subject comes up, he becomes quiet, thoughtful, and usually changes the topic. Dr. Ramirez explained this is normal and healthy. He is protecting himself, setting boundaries, something that was denied to him for so long. Perhaps one day, when he is older and emotionally prepared, he will decide. But that will be his decision, when and if he is ready. What struck me most throughout this journey was realizing how domestic violence against children can happen silently, right under our noses. Nia maintained a perfect image of a dedicated mother in everyone's eyes, neighbors, family, teachers. No one would ever suspect what she did when the doors closed. No one except her terrified son who had no voice or power to defend himself. I learned to always be alert to the signs. Ethan's behavioral changes weren't just a phase, as Nia tried to convince me. They were silent cries for help that I, unfortunately, was slow to hear. Today, I am much more observant, not just with my son, but with other children around me. I've identified suspicious situations a few times and haven't hesitated to contact the authorities. It's better to investigate and find out everything is fine than to ignore it and allow another child to suffer. At home, we've built a relationship based on absolute trust. Ethan knows he can tell me anything without fear. We have rules and boundaries, but they are always discussed with respect and affection. Discipline is taught through conversations, logical consequences, and example. Never, ever through physical or psychological violence. One of the things I am most proud of is seeing how Ethan has become an empathetic and protective child. At school, he often defends classmates who are being bullied or who seem vulnerable. Everyone deserves to feel safe, Dad, he told me once, with wisdom beyond his years. Recently, I was invited to give testimony at a support group for single parents who have gone through domestic violence. I shared our story, highlighting the importance of being alert to the signs, of believing children when they try to communicate that something is wrong, and of acting quickly when there is suspicion of abuse. After my talk, a woman approached me crying. She had just discovered her ex-husband was abusing their son during weekend visits. I installed cameras after noticing strange behavior in the child, just like you did, she said, squeezing my hand. Your testimony gave me the courage to move forward. Knowing that it's possible to rebuild your life, that children can recover, that gave me hope. And that is what I carry with me every day, hope. Hope that Ethan continues his path of healing, that he grows up strong and confident despite the adversities he faced so early. Hope that our story can help other families identify and interrupt cycles of violence. Hope that as a society, we can better protect our children. That camera I installed in my son's room not only documented the horror he was living through, it saved his life. It allowed me to see the dark truth hidden in my own home and gave me the tools to protect him. It was a desperate gesture that turned into salvation. Today, when I see Ethan playing carelessly in the yard, running after the ball with our dog, a mixed breed we adopted last year, I see a child who is finally living the childhood he deserves. The eyes that once carried so much fear now shine with joy and curiosity. The deep dark circles have given way to rosy cheeks. The scared silence has transformed into laughter and animated conversations about his school days, his friends, his dreams. Sometimes when we're watching TV or reading a bedtime story, he snuggles into my arms in a way that reminds me how far we've come. In those moments, I silently give thanks for having followed my instincts that night, for not having ignored the signs, for having the courage to face the truth, no matter how painful. The journey wasn't easy. There were days of despair, doubt, and guilt. There were nights when I wondered if we would ever completely overcome the trauma. But every small step forward, a genuine smile, a night without nightmares, a spontaneous hug, showed me we were on the right path. To any parent out there, I leave you with a piece of advice born from pain and experience: trust your instincts. If something seems wrong with your child, it probably is. Children change their behavior for various reasons, but drastic changes, especially those involving fear, withdrawal, and physical signs, should never be ignored. Talk to your children. Be present. Observe. Listen not only to what they say but also to what they don't say, what they express through behavior, drawings, and games. And remember, violence against children has no justification. It is not discipline. It is not education. It is not for their own good. It is pure and simple abuse. And as a society, we have a duty to protect the most vulnerable, to give a voice to those who often cannot speak for themselves. Our story had a happy ending. Despite all the adversities, Ethan is safe. He is healing. And he is growing up surrounded by love and respect. Not all stories end this way. Some children spend years, decades, an entire lifetime suffering abuse because no one intervenes, no one notices, no one believes. Don't let that happen. Be vigilant. Be the voice. Be the protection that every child deserves. Direct, natural call to action: thank you for letting me share my story with you. It truly means a lot. I'm curious, what would you have done in my place when those first instincts started screaming? Have you ever had to fight to protect someone you love from an unimaginable betrayal? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.